Alex Carter walked through the metal corridors of Sentinel-7, trying not to think about how everyone stared at him. The Galactic Military Academy had been training officers for 300 years, and he was the first human to ever attend. That made him either very lucky or very stupid, depending on who you asked. The other cadets towered over him. Trin, the insectoid from Hive World, had 4 arms and could lift 3 times her body weight. Hollis came from an ocean planet and could breathe in both water and air. Quen was made of living crystal that could withstand temperatures hot enough to melt steel. Then there was Alex, just a regular human from Earth, a planet most species had barely heard of. He reached the training hall and found his usual spot in the back. The room was huge, designed to accommodate 50 cadets of different sizes and shapes. Some needed special atmosphere helmets. Others required heated floors or cooling units. Alex just needed a place to stand and try not to embarrass his entire species. Commander Rolth entered the room with heavy footsteps. He was a Saurian, 8 feet tall with scales that gleamed under the lights. His yellow eyes swept across the cadets like a predator sizing up prey. Everyone straightened immediately. Rolth had fought in the border wars for 20 years and survived things that would have killed most beings twice. "Listen up," Rolth's voice echoed through the hall. "You think you're tough because you passed the entrance exams. You think you're ready because you can shoot straight and follow orders. You're wrong." The cadets remained silent. Nobody interrupted Commander Rolth. "In 2 days, we're conducting predator conditioning. It's an academy tradition. We bring in a real predator from a real death world and you face it. Not in a simulation. Not in a hologram. The real thing." Whispers spread through the room. Alex had heard about this tradition. Every year, the academy captured some dangerous creature and used it to test cadet courage. Some years, cadets got hurt. The academy called it character building. Alex called it insane, but he kept that opinion to himself. "The creature we've selected this year is particularly special," Rolth continued. "A Ravenclaw from Kragus 9. 400 pounds of muscle, claw, and rage. It kills for sport and fear nothing in its natural habitat." Trin's antenna twitched nervously. Even Quen, who usually showed no emotion, seemed to dim slightly. Alex felt his stomach tighten. He'd read about death worlds in the Academy database. Kragus 9 was rated as one of the most dangerous planets in known space. Nothing lived there unless it could kill everything else first. "You'll each enter the arena alone," Rolth explained. "You'll stand in a circle while the Ravenclaw is free to move around you. Energy shields will protect you from physical harm, but they won't stop the fear. That's what we're testing. Your ability to stand firm when every instinct screams at you to run." After the briefing ended, the cadets filed out in small groups, talking nervously among themselves. Alex walked alone as usual. He'd tried making friends during the first few weeks, but most aliens didn't know how to relate to humans. Some thought humans were too fragile. Others found human biology strange or unsettling. A few were just polite enough to ignore him. He returned to his quarters, a small room with a bed, desk, and personal terminal. While other cadets were probably drinking or bragging about how brave they'd be, Alex did what he always did. He researched. The Academy database had limited information on Kragus 9, but Alex found enough. The planet was volcanic, with extreme temperatures and toxic atmosphere in many regions. Life there evolved to be aggressive and resilient. The Ravenclaw was the apex predator, a massive feline creature with bone spurs along its spine and claws that could tear through armor. But something caught Alex's attention. The climate data showed volcanic regions with specific temperature ranges and terrain features. The Ravenclaw's hunting patterns showed pack behavior, territorial marking, and complex social structures. It looked familiar somehow. Alex pulled up Earth's database and compared the information. His eyes widened. The environmental conditions on Kragus 9's habitable zones were remarkably similar to certain regions on Earth. Mountainous areas, volcanic soil, specific prey animal sizes. The Ravenclaw's behavior patterns matched almost exactly with Earth's large felines like tigers, lions, and mountain cats. He sat back, thinking. This could mean nothing. Parallel evolution happened sometimes when planets had similar conditions, but it could also mean something very important. If the Ravenclaw evolved in an environment like Earth's, it might respond to similar social cues, body language, and chemical signals. Alex spent the next hour reading everything he could find about Earth's big cats. How they communicated through scent, how they established dominance through eye contact and body posture, how they bonded with each other, and sometimes even with humans. His grandmother had worked at a wildlife preserve and told him stories about gaining the trust of rescued tigers and leopards. He didn't mention any of this to anyone. The other cadets already thought humans were weak. If they knew what he was thinking, they'd assume he was delusional or suicidal. Maybe both. The next day, training continued as normal, but the atmosphere had changed. Everyone was thinking about the predator conditioning. Hollis barely spoke during combat drills. Trin kept checking the academy news feeds for more information about the Ravenclaw. Even the instructors seemed tense. Alex trained quietly, running through physical exercises and practicing his breathing. Fear was natural. His grandmother had taught him that. Animals could smell fear through pheromones and body language. The key wasn't to eliminate fear, but to control it, to keep your body language calm even when your heart was racing. That night, he lay in bed thinking about what was coming. Part of him wanted to believe his research meant something. The other part knew he could be completely wrong. Maybe the Ravenclaw would charge him like it would charge anyone else. Maybe the energy shields would be all that kept him alive. But deep down, Alex suspected something the academy instructors didn't understand. Humans hadn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or fastest. They'd done it by learning to read other animals, to understand their behavior, to turn predators into companions. That knowledge was written into human instincts over thousands of generations. Tomorrow would prove whether those instincts meant anything beyond Earth, or whether they'd just get him killed. The transport ship docked at Sentinel-7 3 hours before dawn. Alex couldn't sleep, so he watched from the observation deck as the cargo bay doors opened. A massive containment unit emerged, surrounded by armed guards and floating on anti-gravity platforms. Even from this distance, he could hear the roaring. The Ravenclaw had arrived. Word spread fast through the academy. By breakfast, every cadet knew the creature was being held in the lower levels, in a reinforced containment facility designed for the most dangerous specimens. The guards who'd transported it looked exhausted and traumatized. One of them had bandages on his arm. It killed 3 people during capture, Hollis whispered during morning assembly. That's what I heard from the maintenance crew. Took 20 hunters to bring it down and only 7 made it back alive. Deathworld creatures don't follow normal rules, Trin added, her antenna quivering. They evolve in environments that would kill most of us in minutes. Everything about them is designed to destroy. Alex listened but said nothing. He'd spent half the night reading about the hunting expedition through leaked reports he'd found in the Academy's poorly secured databases. The hunting team had underestimated the Ravenclaw's intelligence. They'd treated it like a dumb animal and paid the price. The creature had set traps. It had separated the hunters into smaller groups. It had waited in ambush and struck when they were most vulnerable. That kind of intelligence wasn't common in predators. It suggested social learning, memory, and strategic thinking. Just like Earth's big cats, Commander Rolth appeared in the training hall at midday. He looked pleased with himself, which made Alex nervous. Rolth enjoyed watching cadets struggle. He believed suffering built character. The predator conditioning will begin tomorrow at 800 hours, Rolth announced. You'll report to Arena 7 in full training gear. Medical teams will be standing by. I suggest you all get a good night's sleep, though I doubt many of you will. He pulled up a holographic display. The image showed the Ravenclaw in its containment cell. Alex felt his breath catch. The creature was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Its fur was midnight black, so dark it seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed with an eerie luminescence, probably adapted for hunting in low-light conditions. 6-inch claws scraped against the reinforced walls, leaving deep gouges in metal that was supposed to be indestructible. The Ravenclaw was easily 400 pounds of pure muscle. Bone spurs ran along its spine like armor plating. Its jaw was powerful enough to crush bones. Every movement radiated deadly grace. This is what a real predator looks like, Rolth said. Not the cute animals in your data feeds. Not the domesticated creatures some civilizations keep as companions. This is a killer, pure and simple. It knows nothing but hunting and survival. Alex studied the hologram carefully. The Ravenclaw's body language was aggressive right now, stressed from capture and confinement, but underneath the rage he could see familiar patterns. The way it moved reminded him of videos he'd seen of Earth's tigers. The way it watched its surroundings showed intelligence and calculation. Most importantly, he noticed how it reacted to the guards. When they approached with weapons drawn and aggressive postures, The Ravenclaw attacked the barriers. When they stood still and quiet, it calmed slightly. It was reading their body language and responding accordingly. That night, Alex didn't bother trying to sleep. He went to the lower levels instead, using his academy access codes to get close to the containment area. Security was tight, but they were watching for people trying to break the creature out, not cadets wanting to observe it. He found a maintenance corridor with a small window overlooking the containment cell. The Ravenclaw was pacing, its glowing eyes tracking back and forth. Alex watched it for over an hour, noting every detail. The creature marked its territory by rubbing its face against corners. That was scent marking, exactly like Earth's cats. It stretched its body in long, deliberate movements that suggested it was used to climbing and jumping. Its ears swiveled independently, tracking sounds from different directions. When a guard walked past, the Ravenclaw's pupils dilated and focused, but it didn't immediately attack. It was assessing threats, not just reacting blindly. Alex pulled out his personal datapad and made notes. The Ravenclaw wasn't just a mindless killer. It was scared, angry, and stressed from being ripped from its natural environment, just like any intelligent animal would be. He remembered something his grandmother had told him years ago, back when she was teaching him about wildlife. Animals aren't good or evil, Alex. They're just trying to survive. If you understand what they need and respect their nature, you can coexist with almost anything. At the time, she'd been talking about a rescued bear that everyone said was too dangerous to rehabilitate. She'd proven them wrong by understanding the bear's trauma and giving it space to heal. Eventually, that bear had trusted her enough to eat from her hand. Could the same principle work with an alien predator? Alex didn't know, but he was going to find out. He returned to his quarters just before dawn and finally managed a few hours of sleep. His dreams were filled with glowing eyes and midnight fur. When he woke, the academy was buzzing with nervous energy. The predator conditioning was happening today. Cadets were checking their gear, reviewing safety protocols, and trying to act braver than they felt. Alex ate a light breakfast and did some stretching exercises. He needed to be calm and relaxed. Tense muscles would signal fear. Rapid breathing would release stress pheromones. If his theory was right, the Ravenclaw would read every tiny signal his body sent. In the locker room, other cadets were suiting up in protective gear. Trin had added extra plating to her exoskeleton. Hollis had applied a chemical coating that supposedly deterred predators. Gwen had dimmed her inner light to appear less threatening. Alex wore standard training gear and nothing else. If he was going to test his theory, he needed to present himself as naturally as possible. "You're not wearing extra protection?" Hollis asked, staring at him. "Won't make a difference if the shields fail," Alex said simply. Trin shook her head. "Humans really are crazy. Everyone says so, but I didn't believe it until now." Maybe she was right. Maybe this was crazy. But Alex had learned to trust his instincts, and every instinct told him that the Ravenclaw was more than it appeared to be. It wasn't a monster or a mindless killing machine. It was an apex predator from an environment similar to Earth's, which meant it might recognize a human as something familiar rather than threatening. Of course, it might also recognize him as prey. That was the risk he was taking. The cadets assembled outside Arena 7. Through the reinforced windows, Alex could see the space where they'd face the Ravenclaw. The arena was circular, about 50 meters across, with energy barriers positioned strategically. Medical teams waited nearby with emergency equipment. Commander Routh stood at the entrance, checking his datapad. When he saw Alex, something flickered in his yellow eyes. Amusement, maybe, or curiosity about how quickly the human would break. "Let's begin," Routh said. Arena 7 smelled like fear and disinfectant. 50 cadets filled the observation area, pressed against the safety barriers to watch what was about to happen. Alex stood near the back, keeping his breathing steady and his heart rate as controlled as possible. The containment unit sat in the center of the arena floor, a massive metal cube with reinforced walls. Inside, the Ravenclaw paced and snarled. The sound echoed through the space, making several cadets step back involuntarily. Commander Routh activated the arena's speaker system. His voice boomed across the facility. "Predator conditioning is a tradition that separates the worthy from the weak. You will face a creature that has killed trained hunters, a beast from a world where only the strongest survive. Your test is simple. Stand in the circle for 60 seconds while the Ravenclaw moves freely. Energy shields will prevent physical contact, but they won't protect you from fear." He gestured to a white circle painted on the arena floor. about 5 meters from the containment unit. You'll stand there. The creature will be released. You will not run. You will not hide. You will not show weakness. Failure means remedial training and a permanent mark on your record. Trin was selected first. She entered the arena through a reinforced door, her forearms trembling slightly despite her attempt to appear confident. The other cadets watched in silence as she took her position in the circle. Ralph pressed a control panel. The containment unit's front wall slid open with a mechanical hiss. The Ravenclaw exploded out of the cage like a bolt of black lightning. It was even more impressive in motion than it had been in the hologram. Every muscle moved with perfect coordination. Every step calculated for maximum power and speed. Its glowing eyes locked onto Trin immediately. The creature charged. Trin managed to hold her position for maybe 3 seconds before her nerve broke completely. She scrambled backward, all forearms flailing, and slammed into the safety barrier. The energy shield activated with a blue flash, stopping the Ravenclaw just inches from her face. The beast roared, frustrated by the barrier. Trin collapsed to her knees, her breathing rapid and panicked. Medical staff rushed in to escort her out. She'd lasted less than 10 seconds total. Pathetic, Rolf announced. Next, Hollis went second. He tried a different approach, standing perfectly still and holding his breath to minimize any signals. The Ravenclaw circled him slowly, testing the air with its nose. When it moved in close, Hollis lasted nearly 30 seconds before his survival instincts kicked in and he stumbled backward into the shield. One by one, the cadets took their turns. Some froze in terror. Others tried to project confidence but failed. A few made it past 40 seconds, but none reached the full 60. The Ravenclaw seemed to grow more agitated with each attempt, pacing faster between trials and snarling at everything that moved. Quen, the crystalline being, approached her turn with unusual confidence. Her species felt emotions differently than most, which might give her an advantage. She took her position in the circle, her internal light steady and calm. The Ravenclaw was released again. It circled Quen slowly, confused by her non-organic nature. She stood like a statue, showing no reaction at all. For a moment, it seemed like she might actually succeed. Then the Ravenclaw roared directly at her, close enough that its breath fogged her crystalline surface. Something in Quen's structure flickered. Maybe it was fear. Maybe just a reaction to the sound vibrations. Either way, she stepped back, breaking her position. 45 seconds, better than most, Ralph admitted. But still a failure. The other cadets continued. The pattern repeated. Fear won every time. Even the largest and most physically powerful cadets couldn't overcome their instinctive terror when facing something that evolution had designed to kill. Finally, Rolf looked at his list and called the last name. Alex Carter. The whispers started immediately. The human was going last. Everyone had been wondering how the weakest species present would handle this test. Most expected him to fail in seconds. Some thought he might refuse to even enter the arena. Alex walked to the entrance door, ignoring the stairs. His heart was pounding, but he kept his breathing slow and deep. Fear was normal. What mattered was how you expressed it. He entered the arena. The door sealed behind him with a heavy clunk. Suddenly, the space felt much larger and more exposed. The Ravenclaw was back in its containment unit, breathing heavily from the previous attempts. Its glowing eyes tracked Alex as he walked to the circle. Alex took his position and looked at Commander. Ralph. He nodded once. Ralph's expression was unreadable as he pressed the release button. The containment unit opened. The Ravenclaw stepped out slowly this time, its muscles coiled and ready. It had learned the pattern. Another small creature to terrify, another easy victory. Then it stopped. Its nostrils flared, testing the air. Something was different about this one. Alex remained absolutely still, but not frozen. Frozen meant fear, still meant calm. He kept his shoulders relaxed, his posture neutral. He didn't stare directly at the creature, which would be a challenge. He didn't look away, which would signal prey behavior. He simply existed in the space, present but not threatening. The Ravenclaw moved closer, more cautious than it had been with any other cadet. Its eyes narrowed as it tried to understand what it was sensing. The scent coming from this creature was wrong, or rather, it was right in a way nothing else in this place had been. Alex could smell the creature now. A musky scent like big cats back on Earth. His grandmother had described it once. The smell of a predator that was curious rather than hunting. He recognized it instinctively. The Ravenclaw circled him once, then twice. Its body language shifted from aggressive to uncertain. The bone spurs along its spine lowered slightly. Its tail, which had been lashing angrily, slowed to a gentle wave. In the observation area, the cadets were completely silent. Nobody understood what they were witnessing. Alex slowly lowered himself to sit cross-legged on the floor. It was a risk making himself smaller and more vulnerable, but it was also a sign of trust. He kept his hands visible and relaxed in his lap. The Ravenclaw stopped circling. It stared at Alex for a long moment, processing. Then it did something that made Commander Rolth drop his datapad in shock. The creature lowered its head, closing its eyes to narrow slits. It was a submission signal, or at least a signal of non-aggression. Alex had seen domestic cats do the same thing when they trusted someone. He slowly extended one hand, palm down, and held it steady. The Ravenclaw sniffed it carefully, taking in the scent. Then, moving with surprising gentleness for something so large, it bumped its head against Alex's hand. Alex felt the soft fur, the warmth of living tissue, the vibration of breath. He moved his hand slowly, stroking along the creature's jaw where scent glands would be located if this creature's biology matched Earth's felines. The Ravenclaw made a sound. It wasn't a roar or a growl. It was something between a rumble and a purr, deep and resonant. Then the massive predator, the beast that had terrified 50 cadets and killed trained hunters, lowered itself to the ground and rested its head near Alex's leg. Not touching, but close. A position of trust and relaxation. The 60-second timer had long since passed. Nobody had thought to stop it. Alex sat quietly with the Ravenclaw for another minute, just being present. He could feel the creature's breathing slow to a calm, steady rhythm. This wasn't a mindless killer. This was an intelligent being responding to signals it understood, showing trust to someone who spoke its language. Finally, Commander Rolth found his voice. "Get him out of there, now." Alex stood slowly, careful not to startle the Ravenclaw. The creature watched him with those luminescent eyes but made no move to attack. When Alex walked toward the arena exit, the beast actually whined, a plaintive sound that didn't match its fearsome appearance. The door sealed behind him, and immediately he was surrounded by instructors, medical staff, and confused cadets. Commander Rolth pushed through the crowd, his scaled face unreadable. "What did you do?" Rolth demanded. "I didn't do anything," Alex said honestly. "I just stood there. Nobody just stands there. That creature tried to kill everyone else who entered the arena. It laid down next to you like a trained pet." "Explain." Alex chose his words carefully. "The Ravenclaw comes from an environment similar to some regions on Earth. Its behavior patterns match predators from my world. I think it recognized my scent and body language as familiar." "That's impossible," one of the other instructors said, a slim alien with purple skin. "Kregus 9 is 17,000 light-years from Earth. There's no evolutionary connection." "Not a direct connection," Alex agreed. "But similar environments produce similar evolution. It's called convergent evolution. If two planets have comparable climates, terrain, and prey animals, the predators that evolve there might develop similar traits." Rolth stared at him for a long moment. "You're saying Earth has creatures like this?" "Had," Alex corrected. "Most of the really big ones died out thousands of years ago. But yes, Earth had predators just as dangerous as the Ravenclaw. Some still exist in protected areas." The purple-skinned instructor pulled out a datapad and started typing frantically. "I'm pulling up Earth's classification in the Galactic database." "Let me see." His expression changed as he read. "This can't be right. Earth is listed as a Class 7 world. That's moderate danger, suitable for colonization with minimal precautions. But according to this historical data, Earth once had creatures called bears that weighed over half a ton, crocodiles that could bite through bone, and big cats similar in size to the Ravenclaw. Still has most of those," Alex said. "The classification might be outdated." Another instructor, an elderly alien with too many eyes, leaned forward. "How did humans survive on a world with such predators?" "Most species that evolve alongside apex predators develop natural defenses. Armor, venom, flight capability. Humans have none of those," Alex shrugged. "We adapted differently. We learned to read animal behavior, to understand what they needed and how to avoid conflict. Eventually, we learned to work with them. We domesticated some species completely. Others we learned to coexist with." "Domesticated?" Ralph's tone was sharp. You're telling me humans took creatures like this and turned them into pets? Smaller versions mostly. Dogs were originally wolves. Cats were wild predators that learned to live with human settlements. Horses were prey animals we trained to carry us. We even domesticated some predator species partially, enough to work alongside them. The crowd of instructors and cadets was growing. Word had spread through the academy that something unprecedented had happened in Arena 7. Everyone wanted to understand what they'd witnessed. Quen pushed through the crowd, her crystalline body reflecting the overhead lights. I lasted 45 seconds against that creature, and I felt genuine fear for the first time in my life. You sat next to it like it was harmless, how? It's not harmless, Alex said firmly. The Ravenclaw is dangerous, absolutely, but danger and evil aren't the same thing. It was scared and stressed from being captured. When I showed it I wasn't a threat, it calmed down. By doing what, exactly? The purple instructor asked. What signals did you send? Alex tried to explain, though he knew it would sound strange to species that hadn't evolved alongside similar predators. I controlled my breathing and heart rate to minimize fear pheromones. I avoided direct eye contact, which predators interpret as challenge behavior. I sat down to make myself smaller and less threatening. I moved slowly and kept my body language relaxed. These are all signals that Earth's predators understand as non-aggressive. And this worked because the Ravenclaw evolved with similar social structures? Probably. Predators that hunt in groups need complex communication systems. They read body language, scent markers, and behavioral cues. If the Ravenclaw's evolutionary path was similar to Earth's big cats, it would have developed the same social intelligence. Commander Roth looked troubled. The hunting team that captured this creature said it was more intelligent than expected. It set traps and coordinated attacks. We assumed that was just unusually clever behavior for a predator. It's not unusual where I come from, Alex said. Earth's predators have been doing that for millions of years. Wolves hunt in coordinated packs with complex strategies. Some big cats can plan ambushes days in advance. Intelligence is a survival trait just like claws or speed. The elderly instructor with multiple eyes was still reviewing data on her pad. I'm comparing environmental data from Earth and Kragis 9. The volcanic regions of both planets show remarkable similarities in temperature, terrain, and even atmospheric composition. The prey animals listed in Earth's historical records match the size and behavior of Kragis 9's primary herbivores. How is this possible? Rolf asked. Different planets, different star systems, completely separate evolutionary trees. The universe has laws, the instructor said slowly. Physics works the same everywhere. Chemistry follows consistent rules. Why shouldn't biology show similar patterns when conditions are similar? We've documented convergent evolution before, but never on this scale. Alex watched their faces as understanding dawned. He'd known this moment would come eventually. Humans were new to the galactic community, and most species had assumed Earth was relatively safe because humans seemed physically weak compared to other spacefaring races. They were about to learn the truth, Commander, the purple instructor said quietly. If Earth has predators equivalent to Kragis 9's apex species, and humans not only survived but thrived on that world, we need to reassess our classification. Reassess how? Ralph demanded. Kragis 9 is rated as a Class 12 death world. Nothing can survive there except creatures specifically evolved for maximum lethality. If Earth's environment produced similar pressures and similar predators, then Earth should be... He trailed off, not wanting to say it. Alex finished for him. Earth should be classified as a death world too. Silence fell across the group. Death worlds were rare, less than 1% of known planets. They were places where everything evolved to kill everything else, where survival required constant adaptation and ruthless efficiency. Most spacefaring species came from garden worlds or moderate danger planets. The fact that humans came from a death world changed everything. This is going to require investigation, Rolf said finally. Full environmental review, biological comparison, threat assessment. The Galactic Council needs to know about this. What about the Ravenclaw? Alex asked. What about it? You can't keep it in that cage. It's intelligent and social. Isolation is torture for a creature like that. Rolf's expression hardened. It killed 3 hunters and terrified 50 cadets. It stays in containment. It killed hunters who were attacking it, Alex countered. It was defending itself. And it was scared during the conditioning. Not aggressive. There's a difference. You're defending a death world predator, I'm recognizing what it is. A scared animal in a strange place. Give it proper enrichment, space, and respect for its nature, and it won't be nearly as dangerous. The argument might have continued, but an alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Everyone's data pads chimed simultaneously with an emergency alert. Security breach and containment, a voice announced over the speakers. The Ravenclaw is attempting to break through the arena barriers. All personnel evacuate to safe zones immediately. Everyone rushed to the observation windows. Inside Arena 7, the Ravenclaw was indeed attacking the barriers, but not with rage or aggression. It was scratching at the energy field near where Alex had exited, making that plaintive whining sound again. "It's looking for you," Quinn said, staring at Alex. It formed an attachment. Commander Rolth cursed in his native language. This just gets better and better. 3 days after the incident in Arena 7, Alex found himself in a conference room with people far above his rank. The Galactic Academy Senior Council had assembled to discuss what they were calling the human situation. Alex sat at the far end of a long table, surrounded by alien officials who looked at him like he was a puzzle they couldn't solve. Commander Rolth sat to his left, still visibly uncomfortable with everything that had happened. Across the table was Dr. Melrin, the Academy's lead xenobiologist, a tall being with silver skin and multiple sensory organs. Next to her was Admiral Torvin, the Academy's director, whose species Alex couldn't identify but who radiated authority. "Let me understand this correctly," Admiral Torvin said, reviewing a data pad. "You're telling us that Earth, the human homeworld, is actually a Class 12 death world that was severely underrated in our initial survey?" Dr. Melrin nodded. "Based on the environmental data we've reviewed, yes. Earth shows all the characteristics of an extreme survival environment. The predator diversity alone is staggering. Apex predators on land, in the oceans, and in the air, venomous creatures in every climate zone, microscopic organisms that can kill in days. And somehow humans not only survived but became the dominant species. Without natural armor, venom, flight, or enhanced strength," Torvin added, looking at Alex. "How?" Alex had been asked this question in various forms for the past 72 hours. He was getting tired of explaining human evolution to species that had never faced similar challenges. "Adaptation and intelligence," he said simply. "Humans develop tools, language, and social cooperation. We learned to read the environment and the creatures in it. We survived by being smarter, not stronger. And you domesticated the predators," Rolth said. It wasn't a question. He'd spent the last 3 days reviewing Earth's history and seemed disturbed by what he'd learned. Some of them, the ones that made sense to domesticate. Dogs helped us hunt. Cats controlled pests around our food stores. Horses gave us transportation. We formed partnerships with animals that benefited both species. Dr. Melrin leaned forward. "The Ravenclaw has refused to eat since your encounter. It stays near the section of the containment area, closest to where it last saw you. Our staff believes it has imprinted on you as a social bond." Alex wasn't surprised. Social predators formed strong attachments quickly. It was a survival trait that helped maintain pack cohesion. It's stressed and confused. In its natural environment, it would have family groups and established territory. Here it has nothing familiar except the one creature that showed it non-threatening behavior. "Can you break the imprint?" Torvin asked. "Why would I want to?" The Admiral's expression hardened. "Because we can't have a Death World predator bonded to a cadet. It's a security risk and a liability issue." "With respect, Admiral, the security risk exists because you captured an intelligent creature and confined it in stressful conditions. The imprint is a symptom, not the problem." Rolth made a warning gesture, suggesting Alex was being too bold. But Torvin merely studied him with calculating eyes. "What would you suggest instead?" Alex hadn't expected to be asked for his opinion. He chose his words carefully. "The Ravenclaw should be returned to Kragus 9. It doesn't belong here. But if you insist on keeping it for research or training purposes, it needs proper care, space to move, environmental enrichment, and social interaction. Keeping it in solitary confinement is cruel and makes it more dangerous, not less." "Social interaction meaning you?" Dr. Melrin asked. "If necessary, or others trained in animal behavior. My point is that treating it like a mindless monster will make it act like one. Respecting its intelligence and needs will make it manageable." Torvin exchanged glances with the other officials. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. "The Ravenclaw's status is being debated separately. Right now, we need to address a larger issue. Earth's reclassification changes everything about human integration into galactic society. How so? Alex asked. Death world species are rare, Rolf explained. They're powerful but difficult to train in standard methods. They often struggle with what other species consider normal safety protocols. They take risks that seem insane to everyone else because their baseline for danger is completely different. The galaxy has fought wars over Death World planets, Torvin added. Not to conquer them, that would be suicide, but to prevent Death World species from expanding too aggressively. Your people are new to space travel. Most civilizations assumed humans were just another Garden World species. Pleasant but unremarkable. Now we learn you survived conditions that would kill most of us within hours. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. You're worried humans will be a threat. We're worried humans will be unpredictable, Dr. Melrin corrected. Death World species see the universe differently. What we consider dangerous, you might consider routine. What we consider impossible, you might attempt without hesitation. That makes you powerful allies, but also concerning unknowns, Swai. So what happens now? Alex asked. That depends on multiple factors, Torvin said. The Galactic Council is reviewing Earth's status. Your government will be informed of the reclassification. Trade agreements and diplomatic relations will need adjustment. And you personally present an interesting situation. Me? You're the first human to attend this academy. Your performance so far has been average in physical trials, but exceptional in tactical thinking and problem solving. Now we understand why. You weren't trained to think like a soldier from a garden world. You think like a predator species, Alex bristled at that. Humans aren't predators. We're omnivores with complex social structures. Who hunted apex predators for food and sport, Ralph said. Who domesticated wolves and turned them into hundreds of specialized breeds. Who spread across every environment on their planet, including Arctic wastelands and burning deserts. That's predator behavior, Alex. Adaptability and persistence are predator traits. We're also cooperative and empathetic, Alex argued. We form bonds across species lines. We create art and philosophy. We're not just survival machines. No, Dr. Melrin agreed. You're much more complex than that, which is what makes your species so fascinating and so concerning. Admiral Torvin stood, signaling the meeting was ending. Here's what's going to happen. Alex Carter, you're being assigned to a special training track. We need to understand human capabilities better, and you're our primary test case. You'll continue your standard courses, but with additional evaluations. What kind of evaluations? Behavioral, psychological, physical stress tests. We need data on how humans respond to various scenarios. Consider yourself a representative of your species. Alex wanted to protest, but he understood the logic. Humans were an unknown variable in a galaxy that valued predictability. If he could show that humans were capable and trustworthy, it might help his entire species gain acceptance. What about the other cadets? He asked. They've been treating me differently since the Ravenclaw incident. Let them, Rolf said. Fear and respect often look the same from a distance. Use it to your advantage. The meeting ended and Alex was dismissed. As he walked back through the academy corridors, he noticed the change Rolf had mentioned. Cadets who used to ignore him now moved aside as he passed. Some watched him with caution. Others with curiosity. A few nodded respectfully. Trin caught up with him near the dormitory wing. Is it true? She asked. What they're saying about Earth? Depends what they're saying. That it's a death world. That humans survive things that would wipe out most species. That you could probably kill any of us if you wanted to. Alex stopped walking and looked at her directly. I don't want to kill anyone, Trin. I just want to finish my training and prove humans belong here. She studied him with her large, compound eyes. I believe you. But I also watched you sit next to a creature that terrified me without showing any fear. That's not normal, Alex. That's something special or something scary. Maybe both. After she left, Alex continued to his quarters alone. He sat on his bed and pulled up his personal messages. There was one from his grandmother, sent weeks ago before the Ravenclaw incident. She was proud of him for getting into the academy, proud that he was representing Earth among the stars. He wondered what she'd think about all this. About Earth being reclassified as a death world, about humans being seen as both fascinating and dangerous, about her grandson being treated like a test subject for his entire species. Probably she'd tell him the same thing she always did. Be yourself, Alex. The right people will understand. The wrong people don't matter. He hoped she was right. 2 weeks passed before Alex was allowed to see the Ravenclaw again. The Academy's council had debated endlessly about the risks and benefits of continued contact. Finally, Dr. Melrin convinced them that studying the bond between human and Deathworld predator could provide valuable scientific data. They brought Alex to a new facility. Not the sterile containment cell, but a larger enclosure designed to mimic Cragus 9's volcanic terrain. Rock formations provided climbing surfaces. Heated stones created warm spots for resting. A small water feature trickled in one corner. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the cage. The Ravenclaw was sleeping on a high ledge when Alex entered through the reinforced airlock. Dr. Melrin and Commander Routh watched from the observation room above, monitoring equipment tracking both Alex's vital signs and the creature's behavior. "Remember," Melrin's voice came through a small speaker in Alex's ear. "Move slowly, let it come to you, and if it shows any aggression, retreat to the airlock immediately." Alex ignored the instructions. He'd been around dangerous animals enough to know that nervous energy would only make things worse. Instead, he found a comfortable spot on a sun-warmed rock and sat down, not looking at the Ravenclaw directly. The creature's ears twitched. One luminous eye opened, then the other. It raised its head and stared at Alex for several long seconds. Then, with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large, it descended from the ledge and approached. The Ravenclaw stopped a few feet away, studying Alex as if trying to remember something important. Then recognition sparked in those intelligent eyes. The creature made a sound, something between a chirp and a rumble, and closed the distance between them. Alex felt the warm press of the Ravenclaw's head against his shoulder. It was investigating his scent, confirming that this was indeed the familiar presence it remembered. When satisfied, the creature rubbed its face along Alex's arm, marking him with scent glands near its mouth. "Incredible," Dr. Melrin breathed over the speaker. "It's displaying clear bonding behavior. This confirms the social attachment theory." Alex reached up slowly and scratched behind the Ravenclaw's ear, or what he assumed was the equivalent of an ear. The creature's eyes half closed in pleasure, and that deep rumbling purr started again. Over the next hour, Alex simply spent time with the Ravenclaw. He talked to it in a calm voice, not because it understood English, but because tone and rhythm mattered more than words. He moved around the enclosure, and the creature followed, sometimes walking beside him, sometimes watching from a perch above. It was showing him its territory, sharing its space the way social animals did with pack members. "This changes everything we thought we knew about Deathworld predators," Melrin said during one of Alex's visits a few days later. She was reviewing footage of his interactions with the Ravenclaw. "We assumed creatures from extreme environments would be too aggressive and territorial to form bonds outside their species. You've proven that's not true." "It's not really surprising," Alex said. "Social bonds are survival traits. Predators that work together are more successful than lone hunters. The Ravenclaw recognizes me as part of its social structure now. Not prey, not threat, but something like family. How does your species know these things intuitively? Most civilizations require years of study to understand animal behavior at this level. Because we lived with animals for thousands of years. We didn't have advanced technology, so we had to read behavior, track patterns, understand motivation. It's built into human culture. My grandmother knew it. Her grandmother knew it. It goes back countless generations." Routh had been standing quietly in the corner of the observation room. "The council has made a decision about the Ravenclaw," he said. "We're returning it to Cragus 9. Alex felt relieved. "That's the right choice, with conditions. We're establishing a research station on Cragus 9 to study the native life in proper context. The Ravenclaw will be tracked but allowed to return to its natural habitat, and we want you to be part of the team that releases it." "Me? I'm just a cadet." "You're the only being outside its species that it trusts. The transition will be smoother if you're there." 3 weeks later, Alex stood on the volcanic slopes of Cragus 9, breathing filtered air and feeling the intense heat through his environmental suit. The planet was beautiful in a harsh way, all black stone and red skies, with vegetation that looked like it could survive anything. The Ravenclaw's containment unit sat on a rocky outcrop ready to be opened. Research teams positioned themselves at safe distances with monitoring equipment. This wasn't just a release. It was a scientific observation of how a Deathworld predator would reintegrate into its environment. Alex approached the containment unit alone. Through the transparent panel, he could see the Ravenclaw pacing with barely contained excitement. It could smell its homeworld, hear the familiar sounds, feel the temperature it had evolved for. He pressed the release button. The panel slid open, and the Ravenclaw burst out with a roar that echoed across the volcanic plain. It ran 20 meters, stopped, and turned back to look at Alex. For a moment, they simply regarded each other across the alien landscape. Then the creature did something unexpected. It returned to Alex, pressed its head against his chest one final time, and made that rumbling purr. A goodbye, an acknowledgement of the bond they'd formed. Alex scratched behind its ear one last time. Go on, he said softly. You're home. The Ravenclaw turned and ran, its black form disappearing into the volcanic rocks like it had never been caged at all. Within minutes, the tracking equipment picked up signals from other Ravenclaws in the area. The released creature was communicating with them, re-establishing its place in the social structure. Remarkable, Dr. Melrin said through the communication link. It's already being accepted back by its family group. No aggression, no territorial disputes. They're treating it like it never left. Alex watched the tracking data, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. He'd formed a connection with that creature, brief but real. Now it was back where it belonged, and he'd probably never see it again. On the transport back to Sentinel-7, Commander Ralph sat across from Alex in the cargo bay. You did well, he said, both with the Ravenclaw and with the Academy's evaluation. Your training scores have been flagged by several military branches. They're interested in recruiting humans for specialized units. What kind of units? The kind that operates on dangerous worlds and handles situations other species find too risky. Death world specialists are rare and valuable. Your people might find a unique niche in galactic civilization. Alex considered that. A few months ago, he'd been struggling to prove humans belonged at the Academy at all. Now he was hearing that humans might be naturally suited for the jobs nobody else wanted to do. What about the other humans coming to the Academy? He asked. I heard Earth is sending more cadets next term. They are. And they'll have an easier time than you did because you've already changed perceptions. The cadets who watched you with the Ravenclaw tell stories about it. Some exaggerate, some get it wrong, but the core truth remains. Humans understand dangerous things in ways other species don't. Back at the Academy, Alex found that Ralph was right. The atmosphere had shifted. Cadets who'd once ignored him now sought his advice on animal behavior and survival tactics. Instructors included him in advanced training scenarios. He wasn't just the weak human anymore. He was the human from the death world, which carried its own kind of respect. Trin approached him in the training hall one day, her forearms carrying equipment. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Are all humans like you? Able to stay, calm around predators, and understand creatures that want to kill them? Alex thought about his grandmother, about wildlife researchers and animal trainers, about the countless humans throughout history who'd learned to coexist with dangerous animals. Not all of us, he admitted. But it's part of our culture. We don't see predators as enemies by default. We see them as animals trying to survive, just like us. That perspective helps. It must be strange, Trin said, coming from a world where everything is dangerous. How did your species ever find peace when survival was constant work? Maybe that's why we value peace so much. When you've spent millions of years fighting to survive, you learn that cooperation works better than conflict. We made peace with each other because the alternative was extinction. We made peace with predators because killing them all would have destroyed the ecosystem we needed to survive. Quen joined them, her crystalline form reflecting the training hall lights. I've been researching Earth since the incident, she said. Your world fascinates me. So much diversity, so much danger, and yet humans built civilizations, created art, developed philosophy. How did you find time for culture when you were busy surviving? Culture is survival, Alex said simply. Stories teach lessons. Art expresses emotions that help us cope with fear and loss. Philosophy helps us understand our place in a dangerous universe. We didn't develop culture despite the danger. We developed it because of the danger. The conversation continued. and Alex realized something important. He wasn't just representing humans anymore. He was helping other species understand them. Every question he answered, every perspective he shared, helped bridge the gap between humans and the galactic community. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Alex recorded a message to his grandmother. He told her about the Ravenclaw, about Earth's reclassification, about the changing attitudes at the Academy. He told her that the skills she'd taught him, the understanding she'd passed down, had proven valuable beyond anything he'd imagined. "You were right," he said to the recording. "Being yourself is enough. Understanding the world around you, respecting the creatures that share it, and staying calm when others panic. Those are human traits, and they matter out here among the stars. We're not the strongest species or the fastest or the most advanced, but we understand survival in ways others don't. That's our contribution to the galaxy." He ended the recording and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a Ravenclaw was hunting on a volcanic world, returned to its home. Somewhere else, Earth was being reassessed by civilizations that had underestimated it. And here, on Sentinel-7, a human cadet was learning that his species' greatest strength wasn't what they could fight, but what they could understand. The beast had been brought to scare cadets, but instead it had taught them something more important, that fear and respect could coexist with understanding, that dangerous didn't mean evil, and that the strangest friendships could form in the most unexpected places. Alex smiled and went to bed, ready for whatever challenges tomorrow would bring. He was human from a death world, and that meant he was built to adapt to anything.